Good morning, everyone. From my backyard. It's Friday morning. I'm doing the blog ahead of time because this week is the new Magic the Gathering set, and so after our game on Saturday, when we normally do the vlog, Ann and I will head to Chapel Hill and do a pre-release for the new Magic the Gathering thing. So I come to you from the backyard by myself. Ann thought it would be fun if I did a solo vlog like she does sometimes. I think she will enjoy it more than most people because you guys like her solo vlogs because she gives you useful information about mythology or pronunciation, and my solo vlogs are basically just telling a lot of people they're wrong. So she picked a group of questions she thought I would do better answering in a kind of grumpy, surly, backyard old man kind of way. To help with that, I'm doing vodka with Coca-Cola Chaser. Yeah, so I think that's going to go pretty well. So I'm going to do this real quick. Oh, it's a tasty vodka. Ugh. Okay, here we go. Question 1. In follower upgrade, you mentioned having a list of adjusted templates for creatures and followers. Could you post it? It doesn't have to be a nice PDF. They would gladly take a Google Doc or .text. So here's the problem. We get a lot of these questions. Hey, I heard you have house rule for X. Why don't you just give it to us? You don't have to make it all pretty. You could just give it to us. Excuse me. And that is definitely true. Kind of. But we have a certain workmanship and pride in our work, so if we put something out officially to the community, we'd like it to be nice and official and have a very well thought out and planned set of rules, and we like to go through and make sure things that maybe we don't catch because we think they're common sense are kind of weeded out, and they require a lot of work, and a lot of that is on Ann to get it just looking nice. We take pride in our work, and we want things we put out there to look professional and nice. So that's part 1. Part 2 is so many of the rules I don't write down, and I just kind of keep in my head. My players don't really need specifics on a lot of it, so I don't need to write it down for them so that they can look at it all the time. So I just kind of keep it in my head, and if they have a question, I can explain it. But other than that, it's not something that really comes up a lot. So I don't have it written down or in a text document. So A, to write that all down would take quite some time, and B, then to proofread it and make sure it looked good would also take a lot of time. So, I'm sorry. I think you can look at some great examples of it in our section on the birthrights thing. Maybe you don't know about the birthrights compendium. It's in our downloadable section, and it has a bunch of followers and creatures in it, and I've done my templates on them. So you can kind of go through and maybe backwards engineer, or use those and just kind of switch the animal. I mean, you can change some names on them and things pretty much work out. Like a rhino is an elephant, is a tiger. Like, you could change the names and most of the stuff would probably work. Okay, question 2. Marriage in the Orisha pantheon, and by extension the Yoruba. Yes, I think they're the same. That's a question for Ann, but I'm pretty sure they are. It seems that everyone is married to everyone else, both male and female, and that women are pretty much equal to men, unless Shango is wailing on them. I don't think it's as much that men are equal to women, it's that they don't view sexuality the same way, for gods specifically. So, like, for mortals, it's like any old agrarian type society, women are going to get shat on, and men are going to be miserable. We don't have a lot of matriarchal societies in Earth's history. But for the Orisha specifically, their gods don't really notice the line between masculinity and femininity as much. We tried to recognize that in the PSP. And so it's more of a line that they can straddle and move between, because they're gods, and so that's something that they thought their gods could do. The actual question Okay, there's no actual question here. So, generally, if you ask a question, if you can end it with a question mark and that question mark makes sense, then you have asked a question. Here, you've just given a statement where you think something seems like something. You said, it seems that everyone is married to everyone else. Well, that's kind of true. It doesn't seem like that. It kind of is. Women are pretty much equal to men, unless Shango is wailing on them. Shango wails on a lot of people, so that's not really any different. But women are equal to men. No, maybe. When you can be either, what does it matter? Like, if you're a woman and you were having problems with a man being talking down to you, you could just then be a man, and so then that wouldn't be a problem. But in general, I think women are probably shat on like every other culture, and not taken care of well. Shango just has lots of wives and beats them. Wives are a commodity that the guys trade between each other. This not even question has gone on too long. Basically, I would say probably the gods are very similar to the other pantheons. Men generally don't care about women as much, but new Scions should be changing that, especially with Orisha being able to do a lot of transgender stuff and modern ideas on sexuality. Did you ever see History Channel's Clash of the Gods? And if so, what did you think? I have not. Somebody asked this question about, I think, Vikings, and then Once Upon a Time, which I have seen. But it wasn't Once Upon a Time. It was Grimm last week, and I have seen that. I have not seen Once Upon a Time, nor have I seen Vikings, although I should. And this one I haven't even heard of. Maybe if you have seen it, and I should watch it, you could write that in the comments. But I appreciate that you put question marks here. Maybe if you tell us that it's good, and then we go to watch it. If it's on the internet, we don't have cable. Then maybe we'll watch it, and you can ask us the question again. Do all dogs go to heaven? Do animals have souls? Most of all, how do you get spectral wolves to do my bidding? Okay. Definitely questions. I would say it depends what pantheon you're in, really. I think most cultures don't view animals as living things. They are obviously living things, but they're not something that's equal to humans that would have a soul. You can note that, and this is kind of a stretch, but Cerberus in Hades is still a live dog. He's at the gate, but Hades doesn't use spectral dogs or undead dogs. He still uses a living dog. So we can kind of extrapolate from that it's probably not something they thought of. However, I could definitely think you could do probably a little Japanesey. Thinks everything has spirits. Maybe Aztec with the spirit animals. I think it'll probably end up being something that's more. Maybe if a Native American thing comes out, that might use some spirit animals. That might use a little bit of that. But I don't think that's something that's very general. I think it's a very specific, rare thing. Animals don't. Same thing. Animals probably don't have souls. That's just not a concept that people deal with, or that's not what it's really about. Spectrals to do your bidding. Well, they don't exist. But if they did, which they could, I think it'd be a fine birthright. Like if you had two dogs that were yours growing up, and then they died, and then you got visited right after, and your death god, animal god dad. Like if it was Anubis, and he was like, here you go, dogs. Then that would be cool. They would require some definite monkeying to make the birthright work, but if you want to be Thrall from World of Warcraft, you could do that. Okay, I got a lot of questions to put on here, and I'm not going through them fast, so I'm going to try to hit these faster. Have you ever considered scaling the legend points gained from Raise Your Glass, making it usable once per day, making it usable in the presence of people who have been used it already? I understand why the limits are there, but I think it would still be balanced, maybe more fair, if any one of those were removed. So, this person basically said, hey, okay, raise the glass has a bunch of restrictions on it. Those make my life hard, and I don't like them. I would like it to not make my life hard. I would like more legend. I think for a level 1 stamina knack that's as good as you're going to get, you should take it and be happy. I'm probably going to remove it next time we go through it because it's stupid. It's too... There can't just be one knack that gives you legend. If knacks that give you legend are going to be a thing, and I say this knowing that it's still on our site and that we still have people in character that have it, but no one has used it in years. No one even takes it. But saying all that, it's just bad. It's a bad knack. We tried to tone it down from when it was written, because when it was written, it's like crazy powerful. But just the idea that there's one knack that happens to be in stamina that you can just buy everybody can buy for 5 XP, that just gives you legend back when nothing else in the game does, is just bad. Also, if you're doing something cool enough for the stunt on Raise Your Glass, that should be a stunt that gives you legend back anyway. So, like, having it be a stunt that gives it's just bad. It's bad. I know what the authors were thinking, and Ragnarok's my favorite book, and I know what they were thinking going into it with, I want to have something, big Norse drinking thing. But it's bad. Next time we go through Knacks, it's gone. I'm pretty sure. I know it'll be gone. We may move some stuff around. There may still be a knack that exists about drinking, but it won't be that. Mictlantecuhtli, in the Raw, he's an evil misanthrope that exists to torture Scions and everyone else. We have a lot of Aztec politics in our game. How do you characterize him? The Mictlantecuhtli, as he's described in the books, actually sounds a lot more like Jibulba, with Anne just finished in her Maya thing. I think she ended up making him the Titan guy for the Mayans. I might be wrong, but basically that like evil death god that's like just super, super evil. And I mean, most of the stuff that the original Scion did with the Aztecs was just poor. And that's kind of understandable because we only have so much on them. Like, Anne and I have to do so much research to find good Aztec material. And I can understand why that's one of the harder ones to do. But in our games, the PCs didn't get to deal with him too much. He actually died really early on, like before anyone, I think, had met him, during when Odin attacked the Aztecs and all the Norse came in, and Mictlantecuhtli died during that. So they didn't really deal with him too much, but characterization-wise, I would say he's probably very Aztec to the core, very much following duty. He probably is one of the stricter people about letting people out of the underworld. Like, even Quetzalcoatl couldn't get him to like release people, and he's probably just a hard ass. He's not an evil misanthrope. He's just a guy that has been given a job. He's in charge of something in the pantheon, and it's just his duty and his conviction to do those things. So he's going to be like the perfect underworld god. Dead things come in, live things stay out, dead things stay in, shut it down. So I think he's probably a no-nonsense guy, but that doesn't make him evil, and misanthrope doesn't really fit at all. I don't know why that's there. I know it's the book, not you. Okay, I think we're halfway through. Any players thinking of creating a new Orisha PC for your next game? Whoa! My next game! When would I do that? So, I love doing games, and I love having new PCs, and I love bringing in the newest pantheon into that. But I still haven't done that with the Bugovi, and so the Orisha would be after that. I would love to see both of them in some games, but really I'm at 3 right now, and I gotta say it's really taxing me. Doing theater, trying to run local like Magic the Gathering stuff, doing publicity for theater, cleaning my house, and then running 3 games. And then it's not just the running the games, because our games are long. I think it's like 5 hours, 5 to 6 hours, and 8 to 9 hours are our 3 games. So that chunk of my week is gone. And then both require about that much time during the week. So I'm at, God, damn. I may spend like a day or two a week, like a 24-hour day or two on like either playing Scion or writing for Scion, plus working on industry, plus doing this. This wasn't your question, but to answer your question, I don't have a new game soon. I don't think I'll have a new game for a long, long time. I'm really enjoying the 3 games I have. The third one on Saturday is really testing my limit on being able to do everything and like fit everything into my week, but I'm having a great time with it. And so I'm not going to end that one. And if I did, it would be because of time, not to start a new one. And to my players who are watching this, I'm not stopping it or anything. But so I don't get to have a new game. So I don't get to have Orisha. I don't get to have Bogovi. That sucks. But yeah, that's kind of what I have to do with it. So to playtest them, I have to kind of like, I don't know, play around with characters other than them. Anne probably wants me to mention, she always wants me to do this, but Vivian is an Orisha, kind of, so she's going to still be working on their PSP. She bought up like 4 or 5 levels of it, and I think she's probably going to stop there for a long time, but it is something we at least have one Orisha PC kind of happening. Alright, we know a lot about your God game. What can you tell us about the other 2 games? Are they still hush-hush? No, I don't think any game's really hush-hush. I don't. Anne likes to save it, because then when you read it, it'll come out. But I think the other 2 games are probably so far away from getting stuff written about them that it's fine. I assume that's why she put this question here, for me to answer. I don't really like to talk about like the stuff that's happening in my games. I was never like that kind of nerd. I know a lot of people like love to talk about like, oh yeah, this happened, this happened, this happened. It's not really big for me, just because I don't think the story ever makes sense until the story's really over. Like, and until it ends, like a lot of the stuff may not make sense or may not come full circle. But let's see. In the Eastern Promises game, that's the Wednesday game that takes place in the 1850s. They're basically going around the world, kind of realizing that some magic is starting to happen in the world. There are some monsters around. But it seems like there's something where gods aren't in the world as much, and gods haven't given them a real reason for that. It seems to be kind of hit or miss whether a god can come to the world or not, and they don't know why. And they haven't really been able to find out too much, except apparently Odin is around all the time. Or at least they think it's Odin. The fun thing about that game is not having the gods around all the time and having them still at such low legend. They make a lot of assumptions about a lot of things. The other game will do this as well, but so I can kind of play with that. And they know some stuff, and then they guess some stuff, and then they know some stuff. And so right now, their group is 5 of them. It'll be 6 for the summer, because another player's coming back for the summer. And they're trying to start a new colony in Antarctica. They're going to take the displaced Persians that have been displaced from Persia by Islam, gather them up along. They're also gathering up some old sacred cows and some old sacred rice and plants and stuff. They're going to go use all of this to kind of start a magical colony in Antarctica. See, that sounds kind of stupid when you just talk about a game. But they're all kind of in the middle of doing that. I think, generally speaking, I think games are more about the story is cool to tell when it's like, oh, what happened? What big things happened. But I think it's more about the characters kind of evolving and learning and the experiences they each go through. And I think each one of them could be a whole vlog on each of their stories and how they're growing and changing. And so I don't want to go too much into that. But so that's the basic. They're running around getting stuff for Persia. But I mean, more importantly, they're all experiencing their own stories. They're all growing. They're all realizing who they are and what the world is about and their place in the world. They're a good point. On the other hand, the Saturday game, which doesn't have a name yet, but it'll probably be something from the Jay-Z song about New York. That's what I'm probably going to name it. They're doing well. They've just started their second story. when I do stories for these new games, sometimes characters roll out to go have like a downtime, and then new characters will kind of roll back in. So right now they had one game where all the characters met. Some of the old characters met the new characters. One of the characters is a wanted terrorist. That happened from the last story, just a conflux of events that made him a wanted terrorist. He's trying to get a bunch of other people to follow him, other Scions to follow him, despite him being a wanted terrorist, and kind of having to prove to them that the things they're saying he did, he didn't do, or it was miscued, or that kind of thing. He's trying to lead this band of Scions who are trying to also kind of put him in jail. But they're finding out that maybe the police are a little overzealous, like maybe something is happening there. They're only in their second game. They've just met a mortal technician. This takes place in modern Manhattan. A mortal technician slash conspiracy theorist slash like technophobe, or no, not technophobe, technophile. Excuse me. And they're just learning about that as the game ended. The second game ended. They're in bad shape health-wise. They're all struggling. They're running from the cops. They're getting shot. They're just Legend 2 and 3. It's it's been a brutal time. It's their second game. They're having a real hard time. So right now, I don't know what's happening in there specifically. I think if you could ask specific questions, I could probably help you more. But giving the whole layout of these games that have been going on for so long is probably hard. Next question. That was too long. Sorry. Something's pretty much limited to your own imagination in conjunction with the rules. Yes. Kind of. There's no rule for it, but if you wanted to do a stunt and it was like run across the top of a train and then drop kick somebody, more than likely I'm going to let you do it. Unless you are someone known for having horrible dexterity or athletics. Then I'd be like, oh, are you really able to run on a train? Let's do a roll real quick. But generally speaking, you imagine something, you do it, sounds cool. What I like the most is when players, like I can't describe everything in every scene. So when a player says, "Oh well, I'm in an airport, so there's a Dunkin' Donuts there, so I'm gonna go grab the coffee pot and use that as a weapon." Like them knowing the areas they're in and kind of being able to extrapolate what kind of things might be there, and then using that in their stunting instead of me having to describe everything. Or just something like totally different, like I'm in an airport, we're fighting something. Oh, I see an old lady. That old lady has glaucoma, so I'm going to take her glasses and use them because I know she has the special glaucoma glasses, maybe. Like, you can even kind of put people in scenes. Do a little bit of the storytelling on your own because I'm not going to come up with everything. The stuff is there, I'm just not going to describe it because it's not important. But yes, stunting, pretty much your imagination, unless it's something you character probably can't do or is like far from doing, and then you can do a roll for it. In your game, what did Odin do to make to make Amateratsu her enemy? God damn it, this person. Okay, so why does Amateratsu hate Odin? Was it because the players in the game assaulted Japan? No. About a year into that game, maybe 2 years into that game, I did a sub-story that took place in the past where all the players played Japanese Scions, and then they did this. They did a full story arc as those Scions, and in that story arc, Odin and Amateratsu fought over something. That was like it was in like the 90s or something, and then so the players didn't know all that stuff happened, but they got to play through that, and then later they saw those events kind of coming to fruition as their normal characters. So it was a completely unrelated thing. So in the past they were fighting over some relic. It wasn't like it wasn't super important. They were both fighting over a relic, and then it basically came to blows with a group Odin was with and a group Amateratsu was with, and Amateratsu lost some friends because Odin had been killed. Odin lost some other people too, but they don't like each other. Does the PSP count as a birthright that takes up one of the 5 birthright points? No, please stop thinking that. That doesn't even make sense. Why? No. I know the books do a bad job of that. They sometimes put a PSP on your relic, and that's bad. But But no, relics channel purviews, APPs, all-purpose purviews. Your PSP is just something you have naturally. You don't need anything to channel it. They can't take it away from you. That's it. In a game that's all about smashing monsters, what good way is there to play a character with a pacifist nature? Pacifists are really hard. Especially if you're an extreme pacifist who doesn't allow his friends to do violence either. First of all, the game's not all about smashing monsters. It's actually a very small part of the game. It does come up. Generally, there are your fateful lore will bring monsters into your realm, but I mean, I don't have any fighting monsters stuff set up in Eastern Promises, for example. They're going around collecting things, and sometimes these things are guarded by monsters, but most of the time they like sneak by the monster and steal the stuff they need, or talk them out of it, or just buy. Like, oh, you have something magical. I'm rich. I will buy that. They generally try to avoid fights as much as possible. Fights are still going to happen, but as a pacifist, as long as you make that, take a hard stance on that, you can kind of just back away from it. And if you don't allow your friends to fight either, you can always run. Sometimes being a pacifist is going to get some people killed, but that's what a good pacifist in the world does. Any good person making social commentary on stuff, the important part is sticking to your guns and going through with that. You're going to lose some friends, you might die, and that might just be something that happens. But if being a pacifist was that important to the character, then that should be something they want. Then they would be a martyr for their cause of pacifism and nonviolence. So that's where it fits. If it's important to you, it's going to be hard. It's going to make the game hard. Your other players are probably going to be upset with you. But if that's an important thing to your character, then just let that happen. Alright, this is a big one. Okay. I'm going to sum this one up. It says, can you use manipulation to affect your fate bonds? Can you lie to people, tell them you're good at something, and then get good at that? The answer is no. The fate bonds go past what you are telling mortals, what mortals have heard. It goes very directly to, I spent legend, fate decides this. And that mortal is like a little computer that fate programs with the fate bond. So it's not something where a magician would be like a hacker who could redo the programming. Manipulation doesn't actually do that. Manipulation is manipulation. If you spend more legend on that, they will probably think you are good at manipulation or command or empathy or presence. They will not suddenly think you are good at fire. They will only think you're good at fire if fate has programmed them to think you're good at fire. Either you're doing a lot of fire around, or maybe you happen to be near explosions a lot. I know that sounds Sangria got it once. Or you have nothing to do with fire, and fate has laid that upon you through randomness or fate bonds who are thinking something that you're not for a multitude of particular reasons. But definitely lying, using manipulation, using knacks, none of that affects it at all. All it's going to do is get you more manipulation and people that are really confused, because they will have heard something and they will think something, but they will be programmed differently. Let me see if there's any other questions. It's really long. Okay, the other thing is, how is it different from mortals misconstruing an event by seeing you do something else? So like the fire explosion thing, if you're always walking out of explosions, they're like, oh, you must have fire. Part of that is fate laying that upon you, right? So if you just really think that the fate bond is really about fate, it takes a little bit about what the mortal sees or thinks or believes and strews that in, but it's always about the legend expenditure. It's always about the legend expenditure tied to that during the scene. And fate doesn't play your manipulation games. Fate doesn't care. Fate is going to make the choices that it makes. And it's going to let mortals misconstrue and lay that fate on there, but it's not going to allow you to try to rework that. Fate will fight against you impossibly hard. That's why fate is the the all-powerful thing in Scion. Even the gods have to bow down to fate because it's not something that can just be easily manipulated and changed like that. All right, here we go. Last question. What kind of asks do you reject or refuse to answer? Not many. I would like to reject more. There's a lot of stupid ones and answers that I disagree with. Usually, if it's a really stupid one, she adds like a little short one, then she'll answer another question. Or if it's something we've already answered, sometimes we just do a link to another question. Because those aren't stupid. You just may not have been reading the blog a year ago. You know, we've done over 1,000 posts, so there's just so many, and our search function sucks. But the ones we refuse to answer are, if Thor and Set fought, who would win? Because that's not helping anyone, and that's not really useful information at all. And it's not a question that we could answer in any way. We get I don't want to say a lot, but I'd say probably once a week we get if X fought X, who would win? And those are just bad questions, and we don't have answers for those. For a while, we got a lot of sexual questions about our PCs that got a little too close to the gut, a little too weird, so we screened those out for a while. I think that's about it. I try to not answer like really crappily worded questions, but like if they didn't put effort into, spell checking. But I don't think we actually. I think Anne just autocorrects those. So yeah, those are pretty much the only ones we don't answer. People ask some stupid questions, and we answer them. And people ask a lot of good questions. I'm not being contrary. But yeah, I think the only one is if X God fought X God, who'd win? If X God and X God had a sex competition, who would win? If X God and X God both hit on Odin, who would Odin sleep with? They're just bad questions, and we don't answer those. So that's about it. Let's see. How long have I gone? 30 minutes. So there's your 30-minute vlog. It'll be up tomorrow, which will be Saturday, which for you is today. I'm out here in the sun. It's hot as hell now. Yeah, I'm going to go get a nap. And then do this. So thanks, everybody, for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this. I know it wasn't giving you pronunciations of things, which is useful. Yeah, I guess I'm signing off. That was pretty dumb, signing off. That sounds dumb.